guys, it is April from Getting Hookah With It. Today I'm here to do a little haul for you. I've recently acquired some very exciting books. One of them I've already read and I think might be my favorite thriller that I've read so far this year. So I can't wait to share them with you. Let's get into it. First book that I want to share with you is a short story collection by my friend Jen Campbell. This is The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night. Jen very kindly sent this my way. This is the newly released paperback edition of this book. It came out in hardcover first and just recently launched in paperback, and it's beautiful. Like this, I don't know. Now this might be the most beautiful book that I own. It's kind of a debate between this one and Tin Man, but that's saying something considering the amount of books on my shelves is absolutely insane. But this is just stunning, and I was so happy to get this. I think my plan is to read like a short story every single night for the month of August and work my way through. I love Jen. And if you've ever heard Jen narrate some of her short stories, like, that is a real treat. That is a real treat. She is such a beautiful writer, and I'm so excited. It says on the back, these are stories of family and magic, lost souls and superstition. Spirits in jam jars, mini apocalypses, animal hearts, and sideshows. Mermaids are on display at the local aquarium. A girl runs a coffin hotel on a remote island. And a couple are rewriting the history of the world in the middle of the night. So I mean, it just sounds wonderful. So that's going to happen very, very soon. Now, this next one I have already read. I got it and I read it immediately. And that is Blood Wedding by Pierre Lemaitre. I could be saying his name wrong. I should really get on the French bandwagon. I live in Canada. I should know how to speak French. This was sent to me by the wonderful people over at Quercus Books, and as soon as it arrived, I just had to pick it up and start reading, and I'm so glad that I did, because this was such a twisted, wonderful tale. This is about a woman who, over the course of her adult life, she's had a lot of moments where she's blacked out entirely. And it started with the little things where she would park her car in one area and then think that she'd lost it or it was stolen or something because it wasn't parked in the same spot. And then she would, walk a couple of blocks and she'd find it. And so she's had a lot of these kinds of moments, and then she's had more serious moments where she's blacked out and very terrible things have happened. Now, she has recently got a job as a nanny, and she one day has one of these blackouts. She wakes up and the boy that she takes care of, nannies, has been murdered, and obviously she thinks that she did it. So she's on the run. This was so twisty-turny. It was so much fun. And now this is obviously translated from French. So I wish that I could speak French, just because I would love to read this man's writing in his native language, and I would just love to know what that's like. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. I am now going to run out and buy all of his stuff because I could not put this down. I read this in the span of maybe 3 or 4 days, and yeah, all of my other reading went by the wayside when this one dropped in the mail. So very happy about that. Now, the next 4 are from Penguin Random House Canada. So the first one that I've got here is The Hour of the Fox by Kurt Palka. Now, he wrote The Piano Maker, and I have that on my shelves as well, which I haven't read. But I picked this up because there was a blurb. I don't know if it's in here, but somewhere on the website, somewhere on the Penguin Random House website, they mentioned that if you enjoyed The Light Between Oceans, you should read this book. And I mean, you guys know that The Light Between Oceans is my favorite book. And so, of course, this had to happen. So I requested it. So in this book, we follow a woman named Margaret. She's a successful lawyer, I believe, and you know, things are going quite fine in her life until her son passes away. He's a military pilot, and he dies, and she's just engulfed in sorrow. She moves away. She moves back to her childhood hometown, I believe, and she starts to try to start her life kind of over again, and she, you know, hangs out a lot with her best friend, Aileen. Now, one day, Aileen's son is arrested, and so Margaret takes him on, takes his case on, and this apparently breaks open the sorrow again, and it just sounds wonderful, and I'm really drawn to this story for some reason. So if it's anything like The Light Between Oceans, I mean, this would be easily a 5-star read for me. The next book that they sent me is Becoming Belle by Nala O'Connor. And this is a historical fiction book about a woman in 1887. We follow a woman named Isabel. She is of the lower class. She's been raised in the lower class, but by 1891, she's part of the aristocracy. And she is part of the aristocracy because she marries a very rich man. And once she marries him, it becomes very apparent that he is abusive in one way or another. He's abusive. I don't know if it's only, if it's exclusively like mentally abusive or if he's physically abusive as well. But their marriage becomes really well known. Their marriage takes center stage in London's courtrooms and in the newspapers. So she kind of becomes famous in England. And it just sounds really, really wonderful. Also, this is the most beautiful cover. I just love it. And the spine is stunning as well. So as soon as I read the blurb on the back of this one, I was like, I know that I'm going to like this, so I've got to have that. So I'm very, very happy to have that. Next up is a thriller for you. And this is actually a kind of similar vibe to the last book. This is With You Always by Rana Olsen. And this is about abuse. This is about a girl named Julia who meets a man named Bryce, and he slowly but surely begins to abuse her throughout their relationship, and she can't really get away. She knows that she needs to get away, but she doesn't know how. Everything looks wonderful from the outside, but on the inside of this marriage or relationship, it's just horrendous and scary. And I haven't read a domestic thriller like this since Behind Closed Doors. I didn't enjoy Behind Closed Doors, so I'm really hoping that with a new writer and a new storyline, I will get on board with this. It looks really good though, so fingers crossed. And then finally, the last book that I received from them is Up from Freedom by Wayne Grady. This takes place in 1848, and we follow a man named Virgil who has vowed to himself that he will not be like his father. He will not own slaves. And then life happens. So he meets a woman named Annie. She is a tiny woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, who he is sure would not survive life on the plantation. So he actually takes Annie from his father's plantation, and they move together to New Orleans. Now, Annie is pregnant, and he doesn't know that at first until it becomes very apparent that she's pregnant. And he actually begins to consider Annie's child like his own child. And I think he really has like a change in his mentality. Like, he always knew that he didn't want to own slaves and he didn't want to do that, but I think he realizes how terrible it is, how terrible slavery really is. So much so that when he meets Tamsy, a former slave, and her family trying to escape the reach of the Fugitive Slave Act, he sees an opportunity for redemption. Now, what that is, I'm not sure, but it sounds wonderful. I started to read a few of the pages at the beginning and I was really drawn in. I think Annie is going to be one of those characters that sticks with you and that's incredibly feisty and you're just rooting for the whole time. So very eager for that one. Okay, so next up are the books that I bought myself. We've got another historical fiction. I've been buying a lot of historical fiction, or like I've been drawn to that lately. And this is Bride of New France by Susan Durocher. This is about a woman, or I think she's actually quite a young girl. She has grown up in Paris, and she's grown up in a poor area in Paris. She's been surrounded by prostitutes and apparently people with mental disabilities, and she is taken from Paris and is sent to New France as fille de roi. So this actually happened in Canada, and it's probably the only thing that I remember from my history course in high school. We specifically studied Quebec history. We didn't study Canadian history, we studied Quebec history. And yeah, that happened where these poorer women were sent to New France, which is Quebec essentially, and they were made to create like more of a population in Canada. It is about the challenges that they face along the way while they arrive. And I'm personally really eager to read some historical fiction set in Canada because there doesn't seem to be a lot of that, and I think it sounds really interesting to me. So Bride of New France. I also got a copy of The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. How in the world have I not read this book yet? This is a classic. And we follow Lady Brett Ashley and the war survivor Jake Barnes as they journey from the nightlife of 1920s Paris to the visceral bullfighting rings of Spain with a motley group of expatriates. Now, I'm not going to enjoy the bullfighting scenes. I might have to just forward, kind of get through those and maybe skip over them, but I do think that I should read some Ernest Hemingway. You know, it's about time. So I picked that one up. Got that one for like $1 and $1.50 at a library sale, which was really good. And then I saw this also at a library sale. It's the middle of a book series, so I don't know. I got Karen Slaughter's Faithless. This is part of a series. I kind of wish that now that I've bought this, that I had just gone online and bought the British editions. The British editions of all of Karen Slaughter's work are really nice looking. They're really nice looking, and I think I might like those better. So I might stop here and just start slowly buying her detective series. Now, again, this is a detective series, and as you know, I don't usually get on with those very well, but I love Karen Slaughter. And so I feel like I could get on board with basically anyone that Karen Slaughter writes. She writes characters incredibly well, and I usually feel like that's what's missing in detective series, is that I don't like connect with the detective. So I can't really imagine that happening with Karen Slaughter. So I do want to read this. This is further along in the series, but maybe I'll just start, maybe I'll ask for that for Christmas. I'll ask for the first book in Karen Slaughter's detective series. I think that's what I'm going to do. But I have this one on my shelves now, so we shall see if it stays on my shelves. It does sound really good. It is about a victim who was buried alive in the Georgia woods. and then also killed in a horrifying fashion. And so we follow Sarah Linton as they try to discover who killed this person. All of Karen Slaughter's books are really, like, she doesn't shy away from blood and disturbing violence at all. She's very, very graphic in her details, and that's something I actually really love about her. But I'm hoping that I'll really get on with this detective series, but we shall see. Anyway, those are all of the books that I have picked up recently. Let me know in the comments below if you have picked up any great books or books that you're really excited to get into soon. I would love to know, and I will talk with you later. Bye, guys!